Hi guys, Rob from Rob's Model Cars, and today you join me for part 3 of how to build the Hobby Design DMC Lamborghini Huracan. Now today's video I'm going to show you how to disassemble the AUTOart Lamborghini Huracan. For those of you that don't know, this is actually a composite model. Some people call it a plastic model. It is a composite style of ABS plastic, so I guess you can call it a plastic model. So yeah, we're just going to go step by step through how to disassemble this model to make it a bit easier for you. So as usual, as I break down this model, I am going to put all the components in one of these plastic organizers. I use these for all my builds so that I can label all the parts. And also I've got a piece of foam here. You could use a piece of bubble wrap. I use this to sit the model on so that I don't damage any parts. So let's get started. So you're going to need the same sort of tools as always. I've got a very fine screwdriver here. This is actually a 000 Phillips head screw tip in this. There's some very small screws in the AUTOart model that you'll need that very small screwdriver. Just have another Phillips head screwdriver, a flat head screwdriver, and I have my trusty X-Acto knife for any parts that I need to try and remove. So as with all of these models, you've got to start with the floor. So there's just the screws in the floor, so we'll take those out first. So after you've pulled a few of these models apart, they just get easier and easier to disassemble, especially these composite models. They are quite easy to pull apart. Some say a little bit easier than a die-cast model. They're all about the same, I feel. So that's most of the screws loosened. Sometimes they don't come all the way out, so I just like to tip the model on its side. Just give it a little bit of a helping hand. There we go. And that's the base. That's the base of the model removed. So that was really quite simple. Only 5 screws in total. Make sure we've got them all there in the box. Yep, that's it, 5 screws. So you can see they're getting quite simple. So next step, we actually remove the front wheel carrier and the rear wheel carrier. So again, just a Phillips screwdriver. Definitely makes it easier to modify these models when they are so easy to pull apart. So that's 1 screw, and that's the 2nd screw right there. Now from memory, that just pulls straight out. So there's your rear wheel carrier. We'll put that to the side, and now we'll do the front wheel carrier. Now these composite models, even though the body is plastic, the chassis is actually die-cast metal, so that's where these models still have some of their weight. There's a screw, we'll just put that in its little safety spot, and that is the actual front wheel carrier. So you can see that the wheel hubs, everything is attached in this, and this separates as well. This has 2 screws in it, so you can actually pull this apart and then actually remove the whole wheel and brake assembly and hub, which is all joined together. So that's pretty easy start so far. So as you can see, this is the metal chassis, which gives these composite models a bit of weight. They're still not as heavy as a die-cast a model that has a die-cast body, because this is just a lot more weight in the body. So that's a pretty good start. So next, we have some smaller screws here on the side, which attaches the floor to the body. There's also another little screw at the front here. I think that's it from memory, so we'll take those ones out first. I have pulled a couple of these apart before, but I'm getting older and the memory's not as good anymore. But they are pretty simple. These screws are coming out very easily. I do separate these, as I say, and put them in my divider box so that when it's time to reassemble the model, I'm not trying to jam a bigger screw into a smaller hole. It just makes it a lot easier. I do the same thing when I modify my real cars. When I pull those apart, I bag and label all the screws so I know where they all go. So that is going to come out. Now I think from memory the rear diffuser needs to come off. Yes, it does. So this one, I know from memory, this rear diffuser has a couple, I think it's got three little plastic lugs which go through the composite body. Now they can be a little bit tricky to get off. If you just wiggle the rear diffuser part, that will come off. But being that we're doing the DMC kit, we've got a completely new rear diffuser piece, so I'm actually going to force this, if I can. There we go. So I'm just actually pushing down on the back here towards the back of the car, and that will actually snap off those pieces. There's one more in the center. Actually taking quite a bit to get that off. Now I'm not sure whether you can see that, but right in the center you can see a little black dot coming through the white. That's actually the little lug that I was talking about. So I'm going to try and loosen that with my screwdriver, and there we go. So that we've just broken off. You can do the same thing if you're going to disassemble one of these. It will locate back on where you've broken it off if you want to, but you can see here, this is where one of the lugs goes through in the center. That's the bigger one, and then there's two small little ones, one there and one here. So that's, as I say, it's just a little plastic lug on three spots of this bumper bar, and they push that through, and then they just heat the end of it and melt it a little bit so it doesn't fall off. But as I say, we're not going to use this on the DMC Huracan build, so we can throw that away, or maybe put it in your parts box. You may be able to use the exhaust tips. Maybe we have to use the exhaust tips, so don't throw that away yet. And now that the rear diffuser's off, you can actually see that there is another screw in the back which is holding the floor to the body, so we'll remove that one as well. There's a few different model brands sometimes that have a hidden screw, which makes it frustrating for some model builders to actually pull the model apart. And now we should be able to pull the whole floor out. I'm just going to open the doors so I can get my fingers in there. And there you have it. That's the whole floor of the model. So you can see your engine assembly here. This is just, there's a couple of screws on the side, so this can be removed if you want to do any modification there. The interior also, the dashboard, the seats, you can remove those parts if you want to repaint them. I'm going to keep this colour interior for the DMC build, so this piece can just be put aside until you're ready to reassemble the model. But yeah, that's pretty interesting the way they're made. As I say, this is all metal, and just the other parts, the engine parts, interior is all plastic. So we can put that piece to the side. And now you see, and also when you pick it up, this is extremely light. It is plastic, composite, and you can definitely feel it. I don't think this weighs probably more than 50 grams. It's very, very light. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to take the doors off. So there's just, you can see there's one screw here, which will hold the whole door on. So we'll take both doors off. I'm not using my super small screwdriver yet. This is just my normal small Phillips head screwdriver. And this door should come off very easily. I'll just put my screwdriver in there. actually stuck on there quite good. Just give it a little bit of a wiggle, and there's the door off. So you can see the little silver metal hinge here. That's where the screw from the inside goes into. And this door is made up of two parts, so there's a fine line little joint around the outside. I had some trouble last time trying to remove this from a model. I have one of these little flat wedge pickers. This came in a mobile phone repair kit. Sometimes I use those. Oh, this comes off very easy. So there's a little bit of a gap there. You can see that's coming apart there. It's a lot easier to paint these models with the windows removed. So I just basically run that around the outside of the trim to pop it off. And so there's your door trim. You can see the couple of locating lugs on the inside, very small. So that's basically how that will go back on. So you can just re-glue that on. You're going to change the color of the model. You just have to mask up this interior trim piece and just paint this body color. So that's the door trim there. And you can see here again that the window has this mounting tab on it. There's a little bit of glue residue on here on these little tabs. So what I do here, I just get the Dremel with a little fine ball cutter in it, and I just basically grind off the top of these little lugs, and then that way the window will just pop off. That's the easiest way to do it. And you can also remove the side mirrors. You'll see there's a little body colored lug poking through there again. I would just use my flat bladed screwdriver and just push that, give it a bit of a wiggle on the outside, and just push that from the inside out. That way you'll be able to remove the side mirror. So we'll just put those aside for now. I'll do that later. And we'll take the other door off. So same procedure, just one screw. I try to make sure that I don't drop the screw and it lands on the front window when I've got the body upside down, because I don't want to scratch it. And same again, just give it a little bit of a wiggle. And if that doesn't work, I just put my screwdriver in the inside and just try and push that silver bracket out a little bit. Just a little bit of a gentle persuasion. And there we have it. So as you can see, exactly the same as the other side. I just try and use my little wedge picker again. Just try and force that. Sometimes there's a little bit of a gap there where you can get it to start with. That's it. And then just basically twist it. This one is a bit better tighter fit than the other one. So I'll just run it all the way around. Sometimes it depends who assembles the model. Sometimes there's a lot more glue on it. There we go. I just rock this tool, as you can see, like that, and just work my way around. And that's the best way to remove the trim. So that's nearly off. There's a little bit of a stubborn glue joint at the front, and there we go. So that's broken a little bit of the tab off. I'll just trim that with my knife, and then when it's ready to assemble the model, I'll just re-glue that back on. So same procedure as I said with the other door. Just use your Dremel and just take the top of these little lugs off, and then you can remove the window. And if you want to remove the mirror, same thing. Give it a little bit of a wiggle and use a flat bladed screwdriver on that little lug on the inside and push it out. So again, I'll put that to the side. So that's both your doors out. So as you can see now, there's not a lot left in this model. So we've just got the rear engine lid, window, hood, headlights, and tail lights. So what we'll do now, we might take the hood lining out. So this, I use my flat bladed screwdriver. There is a little bit of a gap underneath. That doesn't take a lot. They all come out very easy. This again just has 4 little mounting lugs. They put some hot glue or something on there, and they just basically hold it in place and stick it down. So that's one of the easiest parts to come out of the model. So we'll put that away. Now, next one we will tackle the engine cover. Now this is hinged to the engine surround panel, and this whole assembly comes out from the bottom. So there's actually a little melted tab here, little melted tab there, and you can see a little bit of glue residue here on the sides where they hold it in. So I'm just going to go get my Dremel and just grind off the top of these little heads, and then we should be able to remove this piece. Okay, so I've got my Dremel. So as you can see here, this is just a little round milling piece. I find this is the easiest to get to all these little tabs inside the body and just grind them off. Just do the other one. And as you'll notice also, I've got a handheld extension piece for my Dremel. Makes it a lot easier to control rather than using the big bulky Dremel and damaging the body. Now, this might take a little bit of finagling to get out. I just use my X-Acto knife just on the sides here where I can see the glue residue. We just cut that off. That did start to separate then. Just be very careful when you're using your X-Acto knife. Any beginners, they are extremely sharp and they will cut you very, very easily. Always cut away from your fingers. So that's nearly coming loose. So again, I just use this flat pick tool, just get it under the edge and just twist the tool sideways just to lever it up. I find that's the best way to remove these parts. And there you go again. So that brings that loose. Now there are a couple of little screws underneath here. I use my fine screwdriver. So there's these tiny little screws which hold the engine lid brackets. Now there's two either side, and that's what you're going to need this 000 Phillips head screw bit for, because they are tiny little screws. I do also magnetize this screw tip with a magnet so that they don't fall off. You don't want to lose those screws. So we'll get the other ones out. Tiny little screws. And then the two on the other side. Again, it helps greatly when you magnetize your screw tip. Something I never did years ago and it was so frustrating. So when another modeler told me that, he said use a magnet and magnetize it. So now this will come out. So a little bit tricky. You've just got to twist it on a little bit of an angle to get it out. So lift it up like that, and then we'll actually drop that out through there. So now you can see the engine lid. Now that's just attached to the lower engine cover just by the gas struts. So then same, it has the tiny little screws here. I'll just remove these screws, leave the gas strut attached to the engine surround because I'm not going to paint that, and then I'll just mask up these hinges and mask up the window because this is all molded, this is all plastic. It's molded in clear, and then they paint the black parts and the body color on there. So you will have to mask up the engine cover. I'll leave this black, I just want to paint this the new body color. So now that you know how to do that, I can do that later. Just remove those two screws. So that is the engine cover, engine surround out of the model. Now if we go to the front, we have the same sort of scenario. So we've got these little body coloured white tabs that are sticking through the black plastic, and they put a little bit of adhesive around there. I'm just going to use the Dremel again and just grind these two little heads off, and then we should be able to remove the front compartment. So it doesn't take much to grind those off, and then again use my flat tool, work that to the sides, twist it just to get those loose of those tabs. Oh, and I missed, there's two more at the front, so there's a little one here and a little one here also. You can see those two, so I'll just get those two as well. Get my dust. And this one I might actually get the flat bladed screwdriver and get that up the side, and there we go, on that side as well. Just open up the bonnet, and of course there's one gas strut on the side of the hood, and that is attached to this inner piece which has got the headlights on it. So I'll get my little screwdriver in there and unscrew the gas strut off the side of the hood. And there we go. So you can see that is the gas strut there that is attached to the hood, and I've also got the little screw there also. So put that to the side. And that front piece also has the inner headlights on it as well, so that whole piece can be removed. And then the little clear pieces, the lenses for the headlights, they just put a little bit of adhesive underneath the tabs. You can see some tabs on the side. I just push those from the outside in. Very easy to come apart. And that's it. So that's your left and your right headlight lens. So just put those in a safe spot as well. And as you can see, we're getting there. There's not much left now. So the next piece is to remove the hood, and that's just a screw on the inside, both sides. Now, yeah, you can't get to the screws that mount down, so you've got to undo the hood. So again, we'll just get the 000 screwdriver in there. There we go, one side's loose. And then we'll do the other side, which has two screws on it. Two arms, two screws. So there we go. Just get that little screw out of there so I don't lose it. And that is your hood. So that's a plastic hood. You can see here it's got a tiny little magnet in there. AUTOart use tiny little magnets when they use these new composite models so that the hood stays down. So that's the hood. So that's ready to prepare to repaint as well. So as you can see here, there is your little hinges there. Now you can actually, there's more little screws there straight down, so I will actually remove those, mark those left and right so I know which ones are which, because when I repaint the body I will mask up this black area, but it just makes it easier if they are removed. Alright, so next part is the front window. Now there's some little tabs here you can see, and there's a couple of tabs here. So what you want to do is release the top of the window first. So I just give it a little bit of a wiggle, just try and loosen those glue joints first. And then what you want to do, very carefully, you want to put your finger on the inside of the window and you want to bow that out so that this little tab that locks into the roof that way will pop out. So let's give this a go and try not to break it. Okay, it's a little bit hard, that one. There is a little bit of glue residue in there, so I'm just going to run my X-Acto knife just around there, try and loosen that a little bit. And we'll give that a go again. Just take your time with this step, otherwise you will crack the window. This is probably the hardest part of the disassembly of this model, is to actually get the front window out. So just take your time and check that there's not too much glue on these little tabs, and just be very careful. Okay, so I've been messing around with this off camera for a little bit just to try and get it loose. What I ended up doing was actually getting the Dremel and just grinding a little bit off these little window tabs here, where you can see those on the inside, and that made a bit of a difference. It made it easier to get out, which again, finger on the inside and at the top, try and bow the window out, and then the window will come up. So that's basically out, but you can see on here that there was a little bit of paint, white paint from the body, so there was a little bit more glue on there than I would have liked, so that made it pretty hard to get it out. But just be careful, and you will be able to remove it. You just don't want to crack the window. So that's basically, the top's got to come out first, and then you can see these two little tabs on the inside, which just give those a little bit of a push. Again, it's quite glued in, the one on this side, so I just force it. Now it's actually broken off the little lower tab on that side, and you can see the tab that's still on that side. That won't affect when you put the model back together. You really need the top tabs there. They're the ones that will hold it into the body. So hopefully you've been able to get that window out a bit easier than I did. So again, put that in a safe compartment so that it doesn't get scratched. Now, we've got the window wipers. Now again, they just push through a little pin, plastic pin. So again, I'll get the Dremel and I'll just grind those off. Now they only go one way, so you can't mix those up when you reassemble the model. I just give them a little bit of a wiggle and they will come out. So there's one windscreen wiper, and again grab the other one, just give it a little twist. And if it doesn't want to come out, just use your X-Acto knife and just try and push it out through the hole. Be careful not to stab yourself with the X-Acto knife. I'm just going to use the tip of my screwdriver there just to try and force that out. And that's it. That's your other windscreen wiper. So that is front window out, rear engine lid, doors off, inner compartments out. Now we do have the little side windows here. Again, they just have a little tab on the inside. You can see that there. Again, I'm just going to use the Dremel and carefully grind those off. Make sure you don't run across and hit the window. Always just use a slow speed on the Dremel. And then you should be able to just push the window from the inside out. Hopefully, there we go. Just stuck a little bit on the inside. Just go a little bit easy. Yeah, that's stuck in there. There's a bit of glue on that one, so there we go. I've just basically you could use a flat blade screwdriver for that one actually. Just get it in the back there. Just give it a little bit of a twist. Anyway, that one I've got loose, so this actually tucks through the body, the window on the rear scoop. So as you can see where the white is on there, that's where the glue was. That was behind the body. So they actually go through the front, they twist in there, and then the window lays flat. So that's how they come out also. So that's one side. And then the other side will be the same. Just if you feel a bit of resistance there, don't try and force it too hard. There's obviously a little bit of glue in there trying to hold it in place. And they're all different. Some of them come out very easily, some of them are stuck in there quite good. There we go. So again, I've just put the screwdriver in behind the air scoop, just twisted it slightly, and you can see how it comes away. Doesn't want to come out. There we go. So that's the other little window. So again, you can see the glue on there. So they put a little bit of glue on there. So if you're on the inside, just try and get your flat bladed screwdriver in there and twist it. And that's the other side window out. So the only other parts I can see in here are mesh. Most of the time these will come out just by forcing them out with your finger. Or you can use the X-Acto knife. There will be a little bit of glue on there. So these are the rear inlets. I'm just going to run my X-Acto knife through there. There we go. That's one piece of mesh. I usually don't use a lot of glue on there. So we'll do the other side as well. Piece of mesh here. Just run the X-Acto knife through there. And then just give it a bit of a wiggle. If it doesn't come out straight away, run your X-Acto knife through there. So again, you can always see where the glue is on these parts. You can see a little bit of white paint from the body on the edge, so they just run a little bead of glue and stick that in. So just hold on to that. Just remember that, because you'll be gluing the mesh back into the model the same way. We have a rear piece of mesh in here also. I find that this always comes out just with my fingernail most of the time. But again, just get your knife in behind it. Run the knife all the way along. And that comes out. So that is the rear mesh underneath the tail light panel. And then we've just got some other pieces of mesh which are in the front. Actually, that whole plastic piece comes out from memory. There we go. So that is your front left, Again, anything doesn't come out, just run the X-Acto knife between the black part and the body colour. Get your fingernail in there and that should come out. So there you go, there's your two front bumper bar vents. Again, you can see where the glue was by the body colour on there. One piece had more than the other. Put those in a safe spot also. And then we've just got the little pieces on the side scoops. So there's a little piece of mesh in here. Same thing. Just run the X-Acto, oh that came off just with my fingernail. And the one on the other side. So that's it, that's your two lower side vent mesh. So they're removed. We'll put those back in the box. And I'll tell you what guys, we're nearly stripped this model completely back so it's ready to paint. We do have one more, which is the front hood emblem. Now on these composite models, that is actually a decal on a little plastic part which is pressed through the body. So there's another little tab in here. So again, I'm going to use the Dremel because it's safer than the knife, just to remove that. Get rid of the dust there. And this one I'll either use my little screwdriver. Oh, there we go. The tip of the screwdriver does that, the fine screwdriver. And there is your tiny little Lamborghini badge. So we'll save that one also for when we reassemble the model. This piece here is just painted black in the center. I think from memory, I don't think there's a piece of mesh in there. I think that's just painted. And the only thing we have left is the tail lights. Now there are no tabs on the inside for the tail light. So I'm just going to put my X-Acto knife carefully in the side, as you can see there, and that's just basically popped that out. So I'll just carefully run my knife underneath the clear lens all the way to the side. They don't put hardly any glue on these, and they're very thin plastic, so be careful that you don't break that. So we'll do the other side. So I'm just going to try and put my X-Acto knife in the edge of it there, and then just run my knife all the way to the edge, and you can see that comes out. So there are your tail light lenses. Now when I paint the model, I will just actually put some masking tape in there just to cover up those little silver paint outs. There's a little photo etched or a decal Lamborghini badge there. It'll be very hard to get that. You can never get those off without damaging them, but I use some of my own custom ones for that. So that's it guys, that is how easy it is to strip a AUTOart composite Lamborghini Huracan. So nothing too challenging there. It's actually one of the easiest models I think out of, I've probably disassembled 60, 70, 80 models over my years, and that is definitely one of the easiest. Now with these composite bodies, I will actually just sand these down with some 3M superfine sanding sponges to repaint. You can try and remove the paint from these composite bodies. I haven't done so yet, but I believe that Zero Paints actually make a paint remover designed for composite bodies. So you could have a look on the Zero Paints website and follow the instructions and use that product. We just don't have anyone in Australia that stocks Zero Paints, so I haven't been able to try that yet. But that's it for today's part 3 of how to build the Hobby Design DMC Lamborghini Huracan. So next step, I'm going to show you how we modify the body. We've actually got to replace the rear bumper bar here. But for anyone else, this video is going to be quite useful for you if you want to build the Liberty Walk version, or you just want to paint your own Huracan in a custom colour. This shows you how easy it is to pull apart. So I hope you enjoyed today's video of how to disassemble the AUTOart Lamborghini Huracan Composite model. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and like. I not only review supercar models, but I also do custom builds like this. And for those of you that are following the build, stay tuned for part 4. So thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments box below. I try and answer questions every day on this channel. And stay tuned for part 4. So until next time, thanks for watching Rob's Model Cars.